Have you ever woken up one morning and, instead of wanting to feel happy, all you wanted was to feel sad? No smiling, no pretending you're okay, no chasing endless goals. You just wanted to sit quietly in your room and let sadness wash over you. If you've ever felt that way, let me tell you this: you're not alone. In psychology, we call this state melancholy. It's not the sharp pain of loss, nor the bleeding wound of a major crisis. It's softer, slower, but also heavy in its own unique way. Melancholy feels like a thin layer of fog covering your soul, both peaceful and weighty at the same time. Have you ever wondered why humans would want to feel sad, when the whole world out there is pushing happiness, success, and positivity? The truth is, sadness, especially melancholy, is not weakness. It's your body and mind whispering, it's time to finally put the burden down. I once worked with a patient, a woman in her 30s. On paper, she had a stable job, a happy family, everything looked fine. Yet she often came to me saying, "I don't know why, but when I'm alone, I just want to cry. Not because something terrible happened, I just feel like crying." If you've ever felt that, you know how strange it is, hard to name, yet deeply real. That is melancholy, the longing to be sad. A safe kind of sadness that lets you take off the mask of strength you've been wearing for too long. From a psychological perspective, melancholy often has roots in childhood. We grow up not only shaped by what did happen, but also by what should have happened but didn't. The hugs we never received, the comforting words we never heard, the moments we longed for someone's attention, but were ignored. As children, we didn't have the power to ask for those things, so we buried the need. We learned to lie to ourselves: "I'm fine. I don't need anyone." But what gets buried always finds its way back, often in the form of melancholy. And the fascinating thing is, melancholy usually shows up when life looks okay, when nothing major is wrong, when no big storm is raging. In that silence, the mind and body finally feel safe enough to whisper, "Now." You can cry for the things you never cried for. Now, you can grieve for what you never had. This is what makes melancholy different from despair. Despair drowns you, convincing you nothing will ever change. Melancholy, on the other hand, is more like a gentle stream washing away dust. It allows you to sit, to breathe, to admit, "I'm tired. I don't want to be strong anymore." And in that admission, a new kind of strength begins to grow. I want you to imagine a child. In their family, they were expected to be strong, to be good, to not bother their parents. They were never allowed to cry, never comforted when they needed it. That child grows up into a responsible adult. But in quiet moments, melancholy comes knocking. That's the inner child whispering, "I want to be weak. Just once. I want to be held. I want to be comforted." Melancholy is the voice of that child. And when we listen, we begin to heal. Psychologists sometimes call this an emotional backlog, all the tears that were never shed, all the grief that was never expressed. They don't disappear, they wait. They wait until you are safe and strong enough to face them. So when you feel that longing to be sad, that's your body saying, "It's time. Let them go." But here's the challenge: society rarely gives us permission for this. From a young age, we're told things like, "Don't cry, be strong, other people have it worse." Over time, we learn to believe sadness is shameful, something to hide, so we grow up becoming performers, smiling on the outside, while secretly craving the quiet intimacy of sadness. The truth is, sadness is not the enemy. It's part of the depth of life itself. When you sit in melancholy, you're touching your own fragility, and in that fragility, you become more fully human. Think about it. Have you ever listened to a sad song that struck you deeper than any upbeat tune? Or watched a film that made you cry, but afterward you felt lighter, even cleansed? That's because sadness carries a unique kind of honesty. Happiness can sometimes feel like a performance, but sadness always tells the truth. That's also why art and melancholy have always gone hand in hand. A sad song, a painting, a poem, they give us a safe place to feel the emotions we suppress in everyday life. As a psychologist, I've heard so many people confess that they feel strange for wanting to be sad. But I remind them it's not strange at all. In fact, it's a sign of courage. Because only when you are strong enough do you dare to sit down and say, "Okay, I'm ready to feel what I once ran from." Melancholy is not here to trap you. It's like the rain that clears the air. After the rain, the sky is brighter. After the tears, the heart is lighter. So the next time you feel that longing to be sad, don't rush to push it away. Sit with it, breathe, let it stay with you like an old friend. Because maybe, in that very moment, you'll find what you truly needed all along: healing, truth, and a joy that's real, not for performance, but for living. I want to share something interesting with you. Over many years of working with thousands of adults, there's one common thread I always notice. Every single one of us carries an untold story. Sometimes it's a sadness we've never spoken out loud. Sometimes it's a half-forgotten dream, tucked away in a drawer. And sometimes, it's a version of ourselves we once believed in, once longed to become, but for one reason or another, we left behind. Have you ever asked yourself, if I could meet the person I was 10 years ago, what would I say? I often ask that question in my sessions. And you know what? Most people cry. Some say they would apologize to themselves for being too harsh, too cold, too unforgiving. Others say they would hug that younger version of themselves and whisper, "It's okay. We made it. We're still here." This isn't just a passing feeling. Psychology research shows that when we imagine having a conversation with our past self, the brain actually activates in the same way as if we were talking to another real person. In other words, you really can heal yourself simply by sitting down and listening to that child inside you. Let me paint a picture for you. Close your eyes for a moment. Think back to a childhood memory, maybe sitting on the porch one quiet afternoon, or standing nervously in a new classroom, your heart pounding with fear. Now imagine your present-day self walking up to that child, resting a hand on their shoulder, and saying, "I'm here. We're in this together." Do you feel it? Even in a few seconds of imagination, your heart might feel just a little warmer. That's the power of reconnecting with yourself. And I know you might be thinking, but my life is too busy. I don't have time for this kind of thing. Trust me, I've heard that hundreds of times. We get so caught up in deadlines and responsibilities that we forget we, too, need to be heard, cared for, and seen. I remember a woman, about 28, who came to me. On the outside, she had it all: a good career, stable income, friends who admired her. But she told me, "I don't know why, but every day after work, I feel empty." As we talked, she broke down in tears. As a child, she had dreamed of becoming an artist. She loved painting so much she would forget to eat. But her parents told her art wouldn't bring a future. So she gave it up. For years, she buried that passion, that emptiness she felt. It was her inner child knocking on the door. I'm not saying everyone should quit their jobs and chase childhood dreams. But I do believe everyone can carve out a little time each day for something that once made them feel alive. Maybe it's reading a few pages of a book you used to love. Maybe it's listening to an old song that stirs something inside you. Maybe it's just writing a few lines in a journal, like you're talking to your younger self. When was the last time you did something purely for joy? Not for success, not for recognition, just because it made you happy? Think about that, and if you feel like sharing, tell me in the comments. I'd love to hear your story. Here's what I've learned. People don't just need goals ahead of them, they need a thread connecting them back to where they came from. When we embrace our inner child, we stop running. We can walk forward more freely, more lightly. And maybe the most important truth I can give you today is this: you don't have to fix yourself to be worthy of love. Even in your imperfections, even in your struggles, you are worthy of love from others and from yourself. The beauty of listening to your inner child isn't about staying stuck in the past, crying over what could have been. It's about opening a door to write a new story for the rest of your life. I often remind the people I work with, you can't go back and change your childhood, but you can change your future starting right now. So imagine this: what if tomorrow, you woke up and treated yourself like your very best friend? Would you still push yourself to the point of exhaustion? Would you still tear yourself down for every little mistake? Or would you finally learn to say, "It's okay. I'm only human"? In modern psychology, we call this self-compassion. Studies show that people who practice self-compassion recover faster from setbacks, are less prone to depression, and most importantly, they're more willing to take risks and try new things. Because when you're not afraid of judging yourself, you're less afraid of the world judging you. I remember a man I once spoke with, 32 years old, working in tech. For 10 years, he dreamed of writing a book. But every time he sat down to write, a voice inside whispered, "Who would ever read this? You're not talented enough." And so, he closed the laptop. One day, I asked him, If your best friend came to you with an unfinished manuscript, would you say to him, "Who would read this? You're not talented enough." He laughed, then fell silent. That silence changed everything. He started writing not for the world, but for himself. Eventually, that little book was published and went on to inspire many others. I share that story because I want you to see this. When you change how you speak to yourself, you change your future. So, let me leave you with this question. If today you could plant one small seed for your future, what would it be? It doesn't have to be grand. Sometimes it's just 10 minutes of quiet in the morning. Sometimes it's a sticky note on your mirror that says, "I'm enough." Sometimes it's giving yourself permission to try something new, even if you might fail. Remember this. The future isn't built in one dazzling moment. It's woven from the small choices you make every single day. And each time you choose to love yourself a little more, you're laying down another brick on the path toward the life that's waiting for you. When we start treating ourselves with kindness, something extraordinary happens. We begin to see others through different eyes. Have you noticed this? When we speak harshly to ourselves, we often end up being critical of the people around us. But when we learn to forgive ourselves, we also learn how to forgive others. This isn't just an abstract theory, I've witnessed it happen hundreds of times. There was a man in his 40s who once came to see me. He carried deep anger toward his father because of childhood wounds. But what hurt him most wasn't just the memories, it was the fact that he had become a reflection of his father in the way he treated his own son. He both hated and feared himself. For months, we worked on helping him talk to his inner child. And one day, he shared with me, I realized that when I embraced that child within me, I also began to understand that my father, too, was once a child who felt abandoned. From anger, he moved to something else, understanding. And from that place of understanding, he began to rebuild a new relationship with his son, one rooted in presence and gentleness. Do you see it? When we heal ourselves, we don't just change our own lives, we transform the relationships around us. And perhaps the greatest meaning of being kind to yourself isn't just that you feel lighter, but that you become someone capable of creating a safe space for others. Think back to someone in your life who once did that for you. Maybe it was a friend, a teacher, a coworker, someone who, with just a few words or even just a look, made you feel, I'm seen, I'm not alone. Have you ever felt that? Now ask yourself, if you could be that person for someone else, who would you choose? Here's the beautiful part. You don't need to be an expert. And you don't need the perfect solution. Sometimes, just being present, just truly listening, is enough to change a part of someone's life. You might think those small actions don't matter. But social psychology shows us that the feeling of being connected is one of the strongest protectors of human mental health. When we feel that someone is with us, our ability to get through challenges multiplies many times over. So this journey isn't only a personal one. It's the invisible thread that ties us together. When you treat yourself with kindness, you plant a seed of kindness in the world. And when you heal yourself, you're also helping to heal the people whose lives you touch. And finally, I want you to remember this. Life isn't always gentle. There will be days when you feel lost, nights when you want to give up, and moments when you look back at the past only to ask, why did I have to go through all of that? But here's the truth. Everything you've been through, the broken pieces and the bright moments, has shaped the person you are today. And only you, with all your experiences, wounds, and desires, can continue writing that story. You can't turn back time. You can't erase the old chapters. But you always hold the pen to write the next ones. So when this video ends, I don't want you to just turn off the screen and forget. I want you to ask yourself, tomorrow, what will I write for my life? Maybe it's just a small page, a kind choice. A quiet moment of listening to yourself. An act of sharing with someone else. And those small pages, those little seeds, will slowly weave together a new chapter. I believe there's always a quiet strength within you, the strength to love, to heal, to connect, and to keep walking. And wherever you are on this journey, remember, you are not alone. Live as if you were both holding the child you once were, guiding the person you are now, and smiling at the future version of yourself. Because in the end, the true meaning of life isn't about reaching a destination, it's about learning to walk this road with kindness, with courage, and with connection. Thank you for staying with me until the very end of this video. If something touched you today, leave me a comment, share a memory, ask a question, or simply write, I felt that too. Because when you share, You not only free yourself, but you might also touch someone who needs to hear it. If you found this meaningful, hit like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. I'll be back with more stories about psychology, healing, and how we can walk through sadness in healthier ways together. Remember, you are never alone on this journey. And sometimes, the gentlest tears are the very beginning of a brighter tomorrow. See you in the next video.